Hey there, and welcome to episode number, I believe, 11 or 12 of season 2 of the World of Presentations podcast, brought to you by us at 356 Labs. Today we have another guest that we actually met each other on LinkedIn, which is very interesting. I got kind of familiar and exposed to his videos, and we immediately more or less started to chat to discuss some stuff, and we decided to get him on the podcast so that you guys can extract some value from his presentation knowledge. So without further ado, we have Kyle Murtagh, right? No?
That's the one.
Okay, that's the one. So Kyle, welcome to the podcast. Let us know, let's start from there. Who is Kyle? The typical, the very boring podcast question. Who is the person?
It's a good question because listen, every time you stand up and present, that's the question your audience have. So my name is Kyle. I've been running a presentation skills company called Confidence by Design for the past 2.5 years. And the reason
Repeat that one. Confidence by Design.
Yeah, Confidence by design. Yeah. And the reason I really called it that was because the idea I have is that when I help people with their presentation skills, it's not just helping them with the presentations, it's helping them with their confidence, right?
All right.
Because with training people yourself, Boris, that's what presentation skills is all about. It's about your own self-confidence, because once you are comfortable in your own skill and confident in your voice, in your body language, in what you are presenting, everything else just flows a lot more naturally. Yeah. And I started off from a place when I first did public speaking where I wasn't very confident at all. In fact, my first ever experience, I stood up, said 2 words, and sat right back down, shaking.
Where was that?
It was at Toastmasters. You've probably heard of those types of organizations before. Well, it wasn't Toastmasters, but it was one similar, a speakers club. And that's where I really started refining my skills. And I realized when I had that problem, I had a real fear, I needed to do something about it. And that's what kind of sent me on this journey to where I am now, where I just absolutely love public speaking. I love helping people improve their presentations too.
Yeah, so it was more or less you finding for yourself that, wait a minute, I can and I should improve those skills. And that made you enroll in one of those programs, let's put it this way, right?
Yeah, 100%. Because no matter what direction you take in life, you are going to have to face public speaking, presenting at some point in work, even in your social life, when you're going and presenting at a wedding, for instance, it's going to come up. So I thought back then I might as well do something about this now so that I can benefit from it later on.
Valid. Absolutely valid. Like I always say that which clubs would you recommend? Is it Toastmasters first and everything else second? What's your recommendation for people that kind of want to go in a safe place and kind of find familiar people on there, or more or less on their level, but with the same intention to kind of improve? What would you say is the best place they can start there?
Yeah, I think probably on an international scale, it is Toastmasters. They're the biggest organization. They've got clubs in, I think, most countries around the world.
Even here, there are at least a few. And we're right. So
I think we've got 5 here in Glasgow. So I think that's a great place to start things off. Of course, you can go and talk to a professional as well. It's always good to hear from someone who's actually done it and learn from them too. So those are the 2 options. And I'd recommend considering both when you're just starting out. And also check online videos. You can learn so much nowadays for YouTube and all of these resources. There's a plethora of information out there.
I agree. So you are also an author of a book on presentation skills, right? So let us know what's happening there. How did you end up writing a book on presentation skills? Give us the behind the scenes.
Yeah, sure. So when I was developing my skills from that point where I was terrified to eventually, doing it professionally, winning public speaking championships, all these things, I began to learn that there's 5 key skills all great speakers have. It's the foundational skills, but they're pivotal. If you don't have them, then the presentation you're delivering simply is not going to have an impact. And I'm not sure how you define impact, Boris, but I define it in a presentation by whether people take action on your words or not. I think
Yep.
that's ultimately what we're trying to achieve when we present. We want people to
Yep.
do something after. Would you agree? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
So then from there, I started thinking about what 5 key skills you need to do to make that happen. And then that's where the book came about, the 5 pillars of effective public speaking. It was
Okay.
a concept I was just doing in workshops at first, but
Okay.
over the years, I've been refining it a lot and eventually got it published last month, early September. And it's doing pretty well so far on Amazon and so forth. And I've also made an audiobook, which I was very excited about because, as you know, as speakers, hearing it is so much more powerful than reading it, I find.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure I had that available as well.
Is it going to be on Audible? How is it going to be published? Like, where
So
is it?
it's published on Amazon, so you can get it as a paperback like that there,
Okay.
for instance. It's as
Yep.
an ebook as well, and as an audiobook, and that is on Audible. Which is
Audible. Okay.
part
Yeah.
of our Amazon as well. They're kind of, in partnership.
Yeah, one of my favorite services. If somebody is not, and we're not even getting paid by Audible and Amazon in that regard, like if anyone is a fan of audio books, I believe that, Audible is the king there.
Yeah.
They're just the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's the way things are going. I mean, even when you're doing a podcast, you're on season 2, people are consuming a lot more information by listening to it, I believe. Because then they can do things on the go, they can get on with their life while taking on board information instead of having to take time out and read a book page to page. So I think it is the way things are going. So yeah, that was kind of the motivation behind it as well.
Yeah. You said 5, bring us behind. Like, if we have to do an overview, what are those 5 things?
Yeah, so I'll break them down for you. So number 1 is body language, right?
Okay.
If you can't have effective body language, if you're not getting into that friend category when you're talking to an audience, it's going to be very difficult to build rapport. Number 2 is voice. You know this with your podcast, you know this with your speaking. If you're dull, if you're monotone, if you're boring like this, you're not going to get very far. People won't even listen to you, even if you have a message which could change the world. Number 3 is structure. How do you find that one, Boris? Is that on your list of importance as well? Structure in a presentation?
For sure. Even yesterday we had a case where we were like listening to a customer where they had the practice session with everybody else, and one of the guys that were running his presentation and doing his presentation, it was like from every slide to like his transitions from slide to slide seemed like, and we were hearing them as they were separate topics, It's just on this slide I have to tell you this, on this slide then he clicks, and then on this slide I have to do this, and I'm like, it's supposed to be part of a whole, you have to figure out a transition sentence or something so that we kind of feel like this is connected somehow, right? So absolutely, you're correct.
You don't want to be starting a new presentation with every slide, right?
Every single slide. Absolutely.
And that's why I thought it was really important to talk about structure in a lot of depth, how to begin the planning process, start at the end with the end in mind and work back to the beginning and then work it all the way through to the end. So that's pillar 3. Pillar 4 is clarity. I think it's something which is overlooked a lot. People present information, especially if it's facts and figures and statistics, but it's about giving those statistics meaning, clarity for your audience so that they know exactly what you are talking about and the message behind it. And then the last pillar, number 5, is impact, which we spoke about a little bit earlier on, talking about how we can get people to take action, how we can get them to take that step, because that's ultimately what we're here to do when we present.
Yeah, okay. So are they in, like, you named it in this order? Are they in this order if you kind of...
That's
right. You have to think about it. Are you going to say, hey, take the first one, take body language first?
Yeah.
Let's then go to voice. Let's then go to structure, on and on. Or for you, you can kind of say, we can start with voice and then add the body language part. Or are you advising, hey, let's go this road first, right?
I think it's easier for people to make changes in the physical than on the other side of, the content side at first, I believe. People always, the biggest problem, right, when people are novices and they're first presenting is that they have no delivery at all, usually. When I first started, my body language was terrible. My voice was not very engaging. And what that meant was that when I spoke, people tended to switch off.
Yeah.
right? And that's why I think it's important to start there, to learn the skills so that you can keep people engaged, and then you can work on the information you're sharing with them. So yes, that order is what I would recommend, but for more advanced people, you can mix and match however you like.
Yeah, sounds good. So what are, like, if you think about those 5 pillars, which are obviously like very, very important, and I would say that any communications or any presentation person would say the same, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's all like at some point they become obvious even to the business professional or even to the aspiring speaker, etc. So what are the, if you have the pillars, like, and if you have to think about, okay, what are people doing wrong in regards to those pillars? Because I believe we can say that, hey, body language, we can say it's not just pillar, it will be a category of things.
Yes.
That's, yeah, right. So what are you seeing from your customers, from the people that you work with doing those workshops, on and on and on? What do you see people not doing well still? Like, what are the top mistakes, kind of, if you wish?
Sure. Well, let's talk about this in an online perspective, because that's how most people are presenting nowadays. So if we talk about online body language, for instance, the biggest mistake people are making is they're not looking at their camera. They're looking at the screen, like they're doing right now, which is the equivalent of not making eye contact when you're speaking in public. But if I look back at my camera, this is a lot better now for both of us, Boris. So that's one thing for sure. I think a lot of people are being talking heads, where there's just zero activity at all, and they're talking like this. It makes it more boring. But if they're more active with their screen, if they're using their hand gestures more, their open palm gestures to build rapport, then it's far more engaging once again. If we take it on in an actual in-person presentation, a lot of times people are making themselves as small as possible. And you tend to notice that confident speakers, they take up space. They're comfortable moving in the space. People who are less confident, they're rooted to the spot and they're almost trying to hide, especially as they've got a PowerPoint behind them as well, you know? So those are some of the things I'm noticing with body language, I would say. Do you see some of those as well? Do you see anything different?
I mean, it is the online world, by the way, presented, if you think about it, presented a lot of changes, a lot of new things in regards to what it takes, right, to make the presentation as effective as possible, right? And I'm kind of shocked. I don't know what's your take on this, but I'm kind of shocked that even though you see some of the top events, some of the, and I was thinking, by the way, when you said the eye contact, all those things, thankfully we kind of said to each other that you are going to share the video and I'm not, so that people, at least in your audience, will see what you meant by that. Even though if I knew that you're going to be sharing it, I would definitely do some other fixes on, and you have to mention this, like, let's mention it afterwards, for like, what's your background makes a lot of sense. Like, use the background. I recently heard something that was absolutely great. I heard a guy that is film producer, right? And he was being asked for some reason, right? For some reason, he was being asked, what does he think about online presentations? I was like, that will be, I mean, that will be, let's listen to that one, because a film producer to talk about online presentations will be interesting take on it, right?
Yeah.
So this guy went really, I would say, with a really clear, with a really clever statement. He said that, think about a movie, right? Do you have like your favorite movie? The interviewer was, sure. And then he said, so think about the best frame in a movie, right? I was like, sure, ready, done, right? And he was like, okay, do you think that in that frame, in the movie, if the movie was done well, there is something that was part of that frame by coincidence, right? I was like, that is clever, right? Good way to put it, right? Good way to put it. So for the virtual, everyone is kind of presenting from everywhere. But I believe that people also, in regards to what you were saying, like the gestures, the eye contact through the camera, and not having the camera as small as right now as I have it from the down part, right? But this part with the background is also so critical. And I believe that that statement of this film producer, I don't remember his name, was very, very clear. Like, use your background and make sure that there are no things that are being seen by your audience that are there by mistake, that are there by chance. Yeah. So that one, in my case, normally would look very differently, right?
Uh-huh.
Very, very differently. But now I'm not going to change it just for the sake of proving somebody whatever, right? But
No,
yeah,
don't worry
but
about
great
that.
advice is there. And for the eye contact, I think that it is a very easy fix. I don't know how your customers are seeing it, but I believe it's a very easy fix. It
Yeah.
just requires a little bit of time to kind of get used to it.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
it's adapting to it, and there's different things you can do. You can put something next to your
Yeah.
camera to encourage you to look upwards. In fact,
Yeah.
even to stick like a little yellow sticky note like that,
Yeah.
stick it above, it makes the world of difference. But yeah, it's about getting used to it. It's about adapting to the situation. And just to touch on the point by the movie director there,
Yeah.
I think something to remember as well, you always have the home advantage when you're
Yep.
presenting here, right? You, like you say, you control what is being seen. You can control where your audience looks, because they're going to look at your background. So you might as well give them something decent to look at, right?
Yeah. And I believe that was second point there. And I'm not sure whether or not it was from him, but anyhow, it's still a great point and I think that is so, so true, that not only there shouldn't be anything left by chance in your background. Obviously you have to position yourself, and maybe you let us know something about the lighting, whatever lights, because sometimes you have, I don't know for you, but even yesterday I saw like people in more or less their half face was missing and it was white, which was obviously
The
a problem.
Halloween sort of movies.
Yeah, but I believe that this idea for having a background that's very well done, you have to think about, especially when the moment is important. I think that you can use your background more or less to brand yourself, right?
Yes.
So what is the background? First of all, there is nothing that's left out there by coincidence, and second of all, let's try and let's push ourselves as presenters, people in the business, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Just a little bit of effort to kind of take a look at what's being seen at the camera and kind of say to ourselves, hey, if people see this in my background, what are they going to think about me? Right? So that is, I believe, something that when you say it even to the most kind of like junior person in the business world, they're like, that really makes sense, especially if they're thinking about their brand, if they're thinking about their reputation, which they should.
Yes.
Really think about it. Yeah.
Yes.
So what else do you see I'm curious about that. Do you see the phenomenon that even the top speakers out there, so the best speakers which are kind of known in the world, let's not name it, but some of the most world renowned, let's call them this way, still approach public speaking in the virtual world because they are now getting invited to speak at virtual conferences, virtual events. Do you see the same that I think I'm seeing, that they still haven't realized that the online world requires different skills?
Yes, 100%. I'm seeing this across the board, and it is astounding to me. I feel kind of silly, Boris, when I tell people to look at the camera.
Yeah.
But so many people are not looking at the camera. I have to keep on saying it repeatedly to encourage people to actually look at their camera. I'll give you an example. So yesterday, I'm quite a big fight fan, right? I enjoy boxing, MMA, all these things. And yesterday there was the press conference for this new fight coming up with Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah, I heard that one.
You're aware of it. And the media were asking them questions virtually on Zoom. And these journalists, it was just astounding to me how many of them looked like they were in pitch dark, like you mentioned earlier. How many of them had like their camera all the way down. Oh, my screen's gone there, but they had their camera below them like this, so you can see up their nose, for instance. And there was other times as well where they had like people talking in the background. It was just astonishing to me how unprepared these professional journalists were to ask Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. these questions. And I'm seeing it across the board. Directors, keynote speakers. Really, people need to switch on to the fact that this is different and it requires a slightly different skill set, and you should be investing time in that.
Yeah. So if we move on to that part and kind of transition and say, hey, let's move and discuss a little bit the online world. We said that, hey, eye contact is different. It should be there, but it's different. We say the gestures are still there. However, maybe we have to be a little bit more careful because you have the screen, right? And you have to be careful how much powerful and how much enthusiasm there is, right, in your your body, in your gestures, because maybe people won't see them completely, right? What else do you find different, and what do you advise the people that you work with to kind of do in order for them to bring their A game into the online world?
Yeah. So I think one of the key differences that I'm noticing, Boris, is how people interact with their audience. So when you're in person, it's fine. You just ask a question, you get a raise of hands, whatever it is. Online, it's a little bit different. There are so many distractions for your audience to get taken away by. They've got their phone nearby them. They've got their family in the other room. Fridge is just over there, and that's a tough one to get by. So how do we keep people engaged? Well, we have to get them involved in the presentation. And on an online call, that means using things like polls, like breakout rooms, and also giving people activities to do and opportunities to speak in the webinar. I do not think it should be a one-way conversation where you're the only one talking at your online presentation. I think you need to get some feedback from the audience. It's the only way to get them fully immersed in it, I believe.
Yeah. Yesterday, by the way, there was a very interesting comment by one of our customers who was like, I think my biggest problem with online presentations is that I kind of don't get any feedback from them. Like they're muted, they don't have their cameras on, and I don't know whether or not they are listening. And I'm like, do you feel, when you say this, do you feel, and do you now understand what you are supposed to do in the online world? Like, you saying that you don't get any feedback means that maybe you may want to create situations which provide you with that feedback.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So absolutely. Okay. So what else?
So alongside that as well, I think it's also learning how you're using your tools. For instance, a lot of people like to use PowerPoint.
Sure.
That's fine. It's great to give a visual demonstration, but I would highly recommend not staying on the PowerPoint screen. The reason being, it's like
what do you mean by not staying on?
Right. So for instance, if I don't know if I can even, should I share a screen right now?
Sure, why not? It's just you that's going to kind of share the video afterwards. So let's do it.
Yeah. Would you be able to allow me to share my screen, Boris? And
sorry.
While you're doing that, I'll just kind of talk through what I mean here. So what happens is people open up their presentation, their PowerPoint, and they go on a slide. And what they tend to do at that point is they stay on the slide. And the problem with this is that when you do that, is you are making the screen very static. And we spoke before about the importance of keeping the screen active. If I stay on this screen for the entire presentation, for the entire podcast right now, this is less engaging for you and me, Boris, because we're looking at a still image right now. But if I show you this image and then hop out by closing the PowerPoint and explain my point further, then that is more engaging. So that's what I mean by hopping in and out of the PowerPoint itself. Do not stay on your static still screen slide. You are far more engaging than a slide, and that will always be the case.
So for the people who are just going to hear this,
sorry,
sorry guys, but just to kind of recap, what Kyle is kind of mentioning is, again, just to kind of recap it on my end. So the fact that you have slides doesn't mean that when you show a slide, you should keep it on the screen for 2 minutes, right? You can show it for 20 seconds and then turn it off, right? Precisely. So that you become, as the person who presents, you become the bigger thing on the person's screen, on your audience's screen, right? Because most of the platforms, right, they push the slides and make them way bigger than the speaker, right?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the PowerPoint shouldn't lead you. You lead the PowerPoint. You lead the presentation. Yeah. The PowerPoint's just a little prop that you use for a few seconds, in my opinion, and then you discard it and then you talk more about your
or what you see, or at least what you probably have seen already, the other version of this, and we have cheated a lot of presentations this way. And nowadays, I believe it's very interesting to notice that what we push our customers to do and what we have done for ourselves is that in order for you to kind of cheat that, right? Because if something moves, I believe that you're coming from the fact that, hey, if something moves in front of me, in my visual sense, something changes,
Yes.
people, we don't have any other option but to kind of take a look at it, right?
Mhm.
Because we are kind of pessimistic creatures,
Yeah,
and we
yeah.
just want to be safe. And if something moves, then wait a minute, I have to see what's moving.
What's going on?
And
Yeah.
yeah, what's going on? Yeah. And the other way we cheat it with our customers is asking them, or we do it for them, depending on if it's development or training service. We build a lot more slides, in meaning the sheer number of slides is just tremendous. It's just, so for example, I recently did a presentation for a very big IT company here in Bulgaria, and it was 1 hour talk online. I went through 170 slides or something, which is
Wow.
very rapid, right?
Yeah.
Like very
It's
rapid. There
always
is
moving.
yeah, something that's always moving. But if you, and now people will say, yeah, but I don't have the time to do those, I cannot do them. So then you use your idea. So now you guys, everybody, you don't have an excuse. You know what you can do. You either build a lot of slides, or you
Yeah.
don't have that many, but when you show it, you can then turn it off, right?
Yeah.
So something continues to move in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, you've got two options there, and they're both at either end of the scale, which I
Yeah.
think is a good place to be.
Okay.
At.
Anything else that you find? Anything else that you find different and people complaining about or not being happy with?
In terms of online presentations, the feedback is a big one.
Yeah.
Keeping it active, how to actually present in the first place. I think also a lot of thing is confidence, right? People having confidence to talk to a camera. People find it a very strange experience and more intimidating, some people tell me, than actually speaking to a human being. And I think that's evolutionary, right? Because when we talk to a human being, we're getting so much information back. When we look at a camera, if you're doing it properly, you're not getting anything back at all. I think what helped me a lot was creating the videos, which you've seen. I create short videos on my LinkedIn, little 1-minute tips on public speaking. And that trained me to get comfortable with the camera. So this was an easier transition for me. Or for other people, it's not. And what I recommend there is exposure, right? You have to expose yourself to the camera. You have to practice. And I would even encourage people, when they're preparing for an online presentation, practice alone in Zoom. Practice alone in a Zoom meeting and actually record yourself on that Zoom meeting, because then you can watch it back and see how things are being seen from your virtual audience's perspective, which I think is very valuable.
Yeah, that is a great idea, by the way, especially if the talk is, or if the meeting, if the presentation itself is like very important. It's obvious that rehearsing is nice, but then you can kind of take this advice which I believe everyone gives to the business world and to the NGOs and to everybody that's speaking, that, hey, try to rehearse in as closest environment to your reality as possible, right? So now if you kind of fine tune that and say, how do we adapt that to the online world? Well, maybe it's exactly as you say. Yeah, that is interesting. I haven't thought about that.
It's like just like sports, right? If I'm a marathon runner, I'm going to train for marathons. I'm going to try and run marathons so I get better at it. If you want to get better at presenting on Zoom, practice presenting on Zoom in a safe environment on your own.
I would add one more thing in regards to the tools. I don't know whether or not you agree, but if you say Zoom, WebEx, or Teams or whatever, I don't know whether or not you see it, but we always advise the people that we work with to do two major things. The first one is that they need to get familiar with the platform. I don't know whether or not you see this issue. Hey, where is this share screen thing? Like, wait a minute, how can I change? They they don't know the platform at all. Do you see that often, or
huge issue? Huge issue. I mean, it ruins the flow of all the presentations.
Exactly.
You don't know how to share a slide. If you don't know how to unmute yourself, I've seen that before with speakers. You really need to get comfortable with your platform, and that's why I always encourage people to practice on their platform, because it's not just a case of testing out your speaking. It's a case of testing out how you're using the tools as well. So if you want breakout rooms, for instance, I would practice running through how those breakout room functions work on your own as well.
Absolutely.
The last thing you want is people just being stagnant because they don't know what's happening, because you are confused about what you're meant to do.
Where is the button? Where is this break? So what's going to happen after if I click this one? But that happens, by the way, in the business world very, very often. I mean, that is just, especially if you're being invited to a call, in a platform that you don't know. Like we were like 6 months ago, we were invited for first time ever in a Blue Jeans call. I don't know if you have
Okay.
used it.
I
Yeah.
have, yeah.
Yeah. So
Interesting
we were
one.
like, oh, let's jump into the platform beforehand because this doesn't look good for us if something goes wrong, right? And
Mm,
by the way, thankfully we did, because there were
mm.
some things that were not as clear to us as we thought they would be.
Oh yeah.
And we figured them out beforehand so that once we were on the call with, and by the way, we were on a call with the CEO of a very big bank. So if
Mm.
we were about to lose his time being
Not a good look.
incompetent in what we do, it was going to backfire on us. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
every single time, that is absolutely, if you guys are listening to this and you are using Teams or Zoom or what is it, Cisco WebEx or GoToMeeting, or what else do we have, BlueJeans, what else,
I mean, I think you hit
maybe
all
these
the
are,
big ones. I think you hit
yeah,
all.
Google Meet. By the way, Google Meet, do you have this? Do you use Google
I
Meet
haven't
from
used
time to
that
time?
yet. I haven't used that yet. I've heard some people say it's not bad.
It's not bad, by the way.
Yeah.
It really is not bad. That is, I'm kind of surprised, even though they are Google at the end of the day, but they didn't become that popular with Google Meet. I think, like, it's kind of strange. But every single time
Okay.
when we're on it, it really works well. Really works
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. I mean,
Anyway,
just think of this in equivalent. So if you wanted to do a great job when you're doing an in-person presentation,
yeah,
you would arrive at the venue early so you could see the kind of speaking area
exactly.
you've got. It's the same thing when you're presenting online. Arrive at your app or your platform early so you can check out the scene.
Yeah. I would add, by the way, one more thing here that I kind of figured out very recently, that I was even not understanding that's happening. And it happened in the last even 10 minutes here. So that's why I want to share it, because maybe a lot of people will have this problem without even understanding it. So
Uh-huh.
the desks that you define, like if you have an office space, or if you define a place in your home where you are going to be speaking from, it turned out, to be honest, that when I was speaking from this table here that I'm right now on, the table is not that stable,
Mm.
right? So because it's not stable, the camera itself, no matter how it's positioned and no matter on what is being positioned, when I put my hands, just take a look at it. See?
Yeah, bit of rocking. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So when I just put my hands to try and do a demo or something, it shakes.
Uh-huh.
And when the camera shakes for a 4-hour training, that's kind of annoying, right? I mean, it
Mm.
could be very
Mhm.
annoying. So
Mhm.
monitor yourself, because for you as the presenter, you are going to be, I believe, so much into the presenting part that you're not going to be looking for very small movements of the camera, and maybe
Mhm.
that will create very big issues and distractions to
Mm.
the audience. And thankfully our audience was great, and they were like, on the 20th minute, they were like, hey, can we stop for a second, can you check this? I was like,
Mm.
wait a minute, what's going on? So thankfully the other 3 hours and whatever went well. But just a tip there, because I believe you may want to check this out when you're at home and the table or the desk that you're using, are they moving even slightly, can be very distracting.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, just making sure you're it's once again what we talked about. It's about the preparation
Yeah,
beforehand, making sure your gear is all in place so that you can just focus on the
yeah,
content of your presentation. So yeah, if you minimize any rocking, anything which could disrupt things as well, I think that's a great point, Boris.
okay. So you said that you're sharing those like 1 minute type of videos on
Mm.
LinkedIn. Where can people find them? Is it on your profile or is it on the company's profile,
It's on both, but
or
my
both?
profile is probably more active with
Okay.
the videos. So if you just type my name into LinkedIn, Kyle Murtagh, there's not too many Murtaghs out there, so you
Yeah,
should be able to find me.
GH, for you guys that are curious, how do you spell that? GH at the end. That is
Yeah.
tricky, at least for me.
So it's spelled Murtagh. It's
Yeah,
got Irish origins, so yeah,
yeah,
it's
that's
their
nice.
fault.
It's
It's their
nice.
fault. But you can also find me on YouTube. Sometimes on LinkedIn, videos get lost after a while, just
Yeah.
the way it is. But on YouTube, you can see all the videos on there as well. I upload them weekly. And
Okay.
just type my name in again, and you can get more information
Yeah,
on
I
that.
believe you can see them also on your website, right? Or not?
Yeah, they're on the website, of course. Confidencebydesign.co.uk is the place
Yeah.
to go for that.
Perfect. So, any other thing that made an impression on you in regards to like successful presentations? You wrote a book on it. Like if we have to
Yeah.
say, hey, let's go for one more thing here. We spent a lot of time on like which are the 5 pillars.
Yeah.
Then we said, hey, what's different in regards to
Yeah.
online presentations? And maybe we can chat for online presentations for 2 or 3 more hours, right? And what the differences are, because there are quite some. It's not just, hey, just
Yeah.
fix your desk and look at the camera. It's not over there, right?
Yeah.
But if we have to kind of say one more very useful thing in regards to both virtual or in-person talks, or a mistake that people do that is an easy fix, what would you kind of say you're seeing very often?
So I'll share something with you, which has been an insight for me recently and been a way which has helped me direct and when creating my own presentations.
Okay.
I think when people are listening to a presentation, when they're watching a video, when they're really consuming any form of content, they're looking for one of 3 things.
All
They're
right.
either looking to be entertained, educated, or inspired. You've probably heard that before.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, right? I think a good presentation does one of those things. A great presentation maybe does 2 of those things. But I think a superb presentation does all 3. It entertains people, right? Gets them wanting to be there, enjoying themselves. Then it teaches them a lesson, something profound which they can use in the future. But then lastly, it inspires them to actually act on that. And I think you are on to a winner if you can combine all 3 of those together. Not easy, but if you can do it, that's something special, I believe.
Yeah, that is well said. I think like that is, I haven't heard that one being defined this way, but it makes so much sense. Like if I go back to the presentations that I have been seeing, right, and try to do that and apply that idea to the presentation that I'm seeing that maybe I'm doing also or have done in the past, I will be, that's interesting to think about that, right? It's really, have we checked the boxes, all of the 3? Like that would be a very interesting check to do for sure.
Okay. I think in some cases it comes in that order as well, right?
Yeah.
I need to entertain you before you're going to be open to hearing my idea.
True.
And then I need to tell you my idea before I can get you to take action on it. So yeah, it's something which I've been pondering a lot lately and using myself, which hopefully people will find useful.
Yeah, okay. So I want to end up with a question that normally we start with, which is very interesting. But I believe that all of those advices that you are giving and everything that we are sharing here, if people take it and try to apply it, it will be great, right?
Yeah.
However, the question that I see many people asking themselves is, why would I care about how I present? Like, I don't know for you, but I would say that our industry is not that popular, right? We are not that looked for, right? It's not like you're searching for an accounting or a website designer or social media agency or whatever. It's just presentation people, presentation agencies, studios, etc. And not like that sexy, if you wish, The question is that I would say that my opinion is that people don't understand the importance, or they don't see a problem with the way they present. So if we have to kind of come up, and you have to come up with a reason or reasons why people or the student that's upcoming to the business world, or that's the founder or whoever, right? Why would be important for them? Why would they spend the time learning about being great communicators, great presenters? What would you say?
There's a number of different angles I could take this from. I think I'll use this one, okay? So one of the most important things in business, in life, and everything is how you not only market your business, but how you market yourself, right?
Okay.
And I think presenting at its essence, it's marketing, right? It's marketing, it's sharing ideas, it's getting information out there to people so they can act on it. So what's the quickest way to share information in terms of communication? Well, you could go to a networking event, right, with say 50 people there, and you could try and get around the entire room talking to each of them, because each person might have an opportunity for you in your business.
Okay.
And you can try and get through as many as possible within 1 hour.
Yep.
Or you could speak at that event, and that makes sure every single person in that room sees you and hears your message. You won't be able to get around everyone if you're just networking one-to-one, but if you're speaking, your message reaches far more people than you ever could in any other platform in any other way. So that's my opinion, because it gets your message out there on a wider, bigger scale. And if we look at the most influential people in history, what do they all do? They all speak in public. They all communicate to the masses, not just to one person at a time. So it's time efficient and gets your message out there.
Sounds good to me. I think especially people who really are looking forward to achieve a lot, right, have to think about that. Because I believe that even up until today, I have been in kind of the presentation world, first from the technical part, because I was a tech person before, but then from the agency part, I've been there for not that many, but 10 or 11, 12 years, something like this. And it's, I don't know for you, but at least from what we have seen, not just here in Bulgaria, but internationally, it's very rare to see a person that's really good in, let's say, marketing, but is also a great communicator. Or it's really good accountant or developer or engineer or finance person, but it's a really great presenter. Right? However, when you mix those, it's dangerous, right? It is dangerous. And I have seen it so many times, and I continue to see it, that just with a little bit of effort, those people that can communicate effectively get the raises, get the bonuses so faster than the other people. Is just, I don't know whether or not is it the same that you are seeing?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, people want to find a way to stand out. They ask how they can make their CV look better, how they can make themselves look more employable. Public speaking presentations is the way, because so many people won't even go near it. And I think I don't really buy the reason that it's not important. I buy the reason as in they're afraid to do it, right? It's uncomfortable for them. And so they avoid that discomfort. But if you are willing to face that discomfort, if you're willing to embrace that and try your best to develop each week that passes by, you will get so much further ahead than those who didn't even try in the first place.
Yeah, I think that is a great point to end on. I don't know for you, but I feel like that was a really...
I think that was the one.
I think that was the one. Okay, we know where to find we know where to find it. Can you just repeat the name of the company, because it doesn't have the name presentation in it? So what was it?
Yes, it's Confidence by Design. You can find it at confidencebydesign.co.uk, or just type my name in, Kyle Murtagh, Murtagh, and you get me from there.
Okay. And for everyone else who wants to see more about the videos and the book and everything that Kyle is doing, these are the places that I believe you can find him for sure. I personally met him on LinkedIn because of the videos, because of the videos themselves. Or was it a comment under one of your videos? I don't know. I really don't remember.
I think we were introduced by Tony, the joiner, I think.
Okay, maybe.
And then from there. But anyway,
was that the case? Really? Yes. Sure. That was the case. Anyway, so Jesus. And that was like, what, a month ago just?
Not too long ago.
Jesus. Anyway, that is shame on me. I don't remember even that type of thing. And somebody kind of introduced me to someone. I'm like, no, I saw him on LinkedIn. Okay.
It could have been a combo of both. You never know.
Yeah. So go on Kyle's website, take a look at his videos. He really shares some really cool stuff. If you want to know more about us as the host, you can just type in 356 laps and not 365 laps. Many people do that and they do a mistake. So go to our website, take a look at what our agency is doing. And obviously the conference that's upcoming in April called Present to Succeed. Tickets are already on sale. We're bringing a lot of people into that event. So come and join us. The tickets are like starting at just 49 euros with taxes, with VAT. So don't tell me you cannot afford that, because I mean, it won't be serious. Okay, Kyle, thanks so much for spending the time. Looking forward to collaborate again and maybe do one more episode on just online, right? Just online tips and tricks. That would be really cool.
Let's do it, Boris. That's a deal.
Okay, have a great day, and thanks everybody for listening.